Unbelievable! Are you looking for a no-nonsense property and business podcast? Our mission is to provide jam-packed content straight to your ears, where we can add value and unpick the fluff in the industry. If this sounds like a bit of you, then strap in and hold tight for an episode with Heidi and Dan.
Welcome to another episode. So today we are going to talk about rent to rent and the truths of rent to rent. So I'm not going to be doing much talking on this episode. Some of you will probably be happy to hear that. Pass over to Heidi, talk about why you wanted to do rent to rent, deep dive on it, the good, the bad and the ugly. So yeah, over to you.
I'll be doing loads of crying on this episode today. I won't really. So
it's more of a counselling session.
Yeah, so this is a counselling episode really. So rent to rent, I started with rent to rent because it's that golden ticket, isn't it? You can't get into property with no money. I didn't have any money. So I started with rent to rent basically. So I did progressive property training. I did the no money down stuff, absolute incredible training. And then I was like, right, I'm going to take the world on now. So I started with rent to rent as like a little building your foundation pot. I already had a buy to let. I wasn't getting much money out of it. I thought it was a bit of a shit strategy. And I
long
thought,
term, innit?
Yeah, it's long term, but still, I've managed to release equity out of it twice and, you know, refurb my own house. And I'm good at negotiating below market value, etc. But it didn't do it for me. I'm not gonna lie, it didn't do it for me. And rent to rent, I thought I only need 3 deals to get out my job. That's why I'm going to do it. So I'd set myself a little goal of being full-time in property by the time my little one was in school.
Have you hit that?
I did it in 10 months, yeah, this is the shocker. So I give myself 3 years to hit it. I did it in 10 months with rent to rent. So it's an absolutely brilliant strategy for, you know, getting in there quickly, not having any money, getting credibility and learning what the fuck you need to learn in property. It's absolutely brilliant. The thing is, the courses are fantastic, but you don't know what you don't know until you're in the shit. So I'm a little bit of a nutter. I like to take on too much all at once, stress myself out.
Same as me.
And then figure it out. So I started with HMOs. I got, I think, 7 HMOs within about 6 months. All at once.
In Hull? Where were they?
No, I'm a dick. I got them in Liverpool, Doncaster and Hull.
All local then?
All local to me in North Lincolnshire. So even Hull's like not even on my side of the river.
Nah.
And I kept getting more and more deals. I was working with a portfolio landlord. He was chucking his portfolio at me, all very bad quality to be fair, so I needed to put
That's probably why he's fucking them off.
Yeah, it's just like, we can have these.
Just interjecting there, like what you said is a portfolio landlord. All you need is one, because you know a lot of people have more than one property. So if you do get the one and you do well, then that might come 2, 3, 4, 5. So it's just finding that first golden opportunity, isn't it? And then go from there.
And I had 3 to be fair. I had a portfolio landlord. I had somebody who was a property investor who wanted to get rid of their letting stuff to me as well. That was like the Donny side of it. And then I had a couple of
Doncaster to you down south.
Yeah, you'll have some northern. I put a posh voice on today as well, so people understand me a bit better. This is not my actual real voice. And then
it's more like this.
Well, it is. And then there's one in Hull as well. And I would take any old shit on, any old shit. It could have been on fire. I'd have it. The first one I took on was full of rat shit. Genuinely was disgusting, but I took it on. I've got some really good pictures as well we can follow up with. But my issue was I took on too much too quickly, and they were all shitholes, and that then breeds bad tenants, really poor areas and that sort of thing. So the good, bad and the ugly is amazing strategy, but you've got to know what you're doing really. And I think with this strategy as well, a lot of people go in there thinking it's easy. It isn't easy. It's proper graft. It's 24-hour service. You've got to give 24 hours to it. Yeah,
and you're doing management. It does become like a full-time job. Like, obviously I have lettings and management company, but there's a lot of time and effort that has to go into it, you know, especially from well, whether you outsource it, it might be that you secure a rent to rent and then you pass it on to a management company who manages HMOs and you build that into your numbers, or you do it yourself. But doing it yourself, again, the compliance side of things, so you've got to make sure that, all on the correct ASTs, and you do all the upfront how to rent guide and all the referencing and absolutely everything like that before you even start a tenancy.
Well, the courses don't teach you compliance. They don't teach you about fire regulations, they don't teach you about ASTs, and they don't teach you none of that. It's probably worth saying I've worked in like the homeless sector for a national housing charity for 12 years. We specialise in naughty tenants. We also specialise in rogue landlords. So I know my shit when it comes to compliance and rules, regulations and that sort of thing. That's my skill set already. If you're coming into property with, none of that, it's this big smack in the face once you get into it with what you've got to do and test. And
you've got to do everything up front as well, because let's say, for example, you have let's say naughty tenant, like you call them.
Naughty tenant.
A naughty tenant. You have to do it. So if you serve a Section 21 or a Section 21 eviction notice, if you haven't served the correct paperwork up front, so the gas safety, ICR, EPC, how to rent guide, lodged their deposit, sent them the terms and conditions, prescribed information within 30 days. If you don't do that up front, then they can basically refuse to leave.
You've shit out.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
That's a legal term. It'll get thrown out of court and you've shit out, basically.
Shit out is literally the legal term. So yeah, obviously that's a lot of things you have to do up front before a tenancy begins. You might inherit tenants. Sometimes that's a good thing. Sometimes it's a bad thing.
Most time it's the bad thing.
Yeah. We're not trying to make all these positives sound negative, by the way. We don't want to put you off properly, but what we're trying to do is just like show you the real side of things. I mean, just fucking follow Heidi on Facebook. You just see her spam of how stressed she is all the time and pulling her hair out. But they can go really well, and I've done episodes on another podcast that they do go really well. But I think making sure that you don't take on a property for the sake of taking on a property is quite important.
And that's what you do when you first start out. I took on, so basically my journey, was it last year? My journey last year, I had 10 rent-to-rents, and I've given 4 back now. I've given 4 back, and to be honest with you, I want to give a couple more back because they're not in the location I'm now specialising in.
And how do you do that? What agreement do you have with the landlord? Like, do you have a management agreement with the landlord?
Yeah, that's a good question because it's, again, most people don't understand.
And then do you have a break clause?
Yes. So I get a bit of shit for my break clauses, but just as a disclaimer, I'm a contracts manager in my sort of 4-day-a-week job, so I know my stuff with contracts. And I'm not a lawyer, but I know how to do contracts and governance and stuff. So I have a management agreement fundamentally. So if you've done a course or not done a course, you need to know this. So you do a management agreement with the landlord. All mine are different and bespoke to the landlord's needs and wishes. And the sort of training is you have a year break clause. You have a year break clause. Don't give them a break clause, which I think is really unfair because if they think you're a knobhead and it's not going well for them, I don't think that's a fair setup in a relationship.
And why would they allow you one if they don't get one?
Exactly.
A contract needs to work for everyone, I think, and it needs to. It's that negotiation, isn't it? Everyone has to meet in the middle somewhere.
Yeah. So I now the ones I early set up have break clauses in 6 months and 12 months.
Yeah.
And I had to keep a property for 12 months, and I shit you not, I couldn't wait to get rid of it. I've got rid of it now. But it was an awful property with awful tenants in an awful area, Donny.
Was it Balby or something?
No, DN1, that's all I know. Oh. I'm shit. That just says it all. I don't know Doncaster, I shouldn't have taken it on in that area, but I did. And I now have a 2-month notice period break clause. So I say, look, if it's not working, have the property back. If you're not happy with me, take the property back. But you don't ever I've never got to that stage because if something's going wrong, I communicate really well. Something's gone wrong or this is irreparable, and you start off with a really good relationship and then communicate and talk about it. Just don't ghost them basically, and vice versa. So I give them a 2-month notice period. I've had other property investors say to me, 2 months, but you've spent $6,000 on the property. I do not spend any of that money on a property. I take on HMOs that are already either tenanted or set up, so I don't need to spend any money on them. Or for my SAs, I'm very savvy and creative with how to set them up now, but we'll go on that in another episode. So I don't spend that money at all setting up properties like that. So
there's always loads of rule of thumbs, isn't there? Make sure you get
Yeah.
your money back in 6 months. Make sure, you know, you don't spend X amount, break clause for one person. There's so many sort of, let's say, rules of thumb in property. Make sure 1.5 room property, unless you get to 7, it might be 2 rooms or something like that. Like, I think it has to work for everyone. It has to be bespoke. If you're confident that it's going to be fully hands off and, well, I say fully hands off, but like not a lot of time invested in it, money invested in it, and it's something that you can sort of let tick over in the background for at least 12, 18 months. Why not? I forgot my train of thought.
Well, that's fine, because I was going to just interject and say, in a positive way, I've got rent-to-rents and profit shares. So profit shares it's a little bit less risk because the bills sit with the landlord or the owner. The bills sit with them. So again, it's basically calculated on if there's voids.
De-risking it, isn't it?
Yeah, it's de-risking it. But if there's voids, we both get hit, and the incentive is I'll make more money if the rooms are full. That's the point.
Yeah.
A rent-to-rent's more, fucking hell, I've got a void. I have to get this filled because I need to pay them.
Yeah.
You need to pay them. So, sorry.
My train of thought was, if you're fully hands off and you know it's going to be let for 12 to 18 months, or you agree something with a social housing provider, who cares if it's 1.5 months? Why not just do like less rent, but you know that you're not going to be putting time in, so it still works for you. Everything is bespoke. Yeah, everything. You know, you have to look at these things on a case by case basis and not go in so narrow minded. Like, it has to hit these parameters, because sometimes if you're too, they call it analysis paralysis. Fucking hell, I can't speak today. Analysis paralysis. Like, if you overanalyze things or you're too rigid, you can lose out on stuff.
Yeah, definitely. Well, yeah, and it happens. I've got rent-to-rents, and I will say this because everyone thinks I just take shitholes on, and I don't. I do have some really have some really nice properties where they're fully tenanted, lovely tenants. They keep the house clean, no problems. Honestly, lovely, really nice people in a really nice house in a not so bad area who pay me in Hull £475 a room, which
good
is
money.
Fucking is in Hull, to be fair. And that nets me £1,000 a month, and I have to do barely anything. Whereas I've got other properties where I might as well move in and it'd still go wrong, and they're £400 a month.
Yeah.
But if I'm ever going to review the portfolio and review the strategy, I would get rid of that one next if I had a choice. So you're looking at what units you've got, the profitability on them, and also if it's a good investment as a rent-to-renter. So there is ups and downs, obviously. But
yeah, and I guess that's it. Like, what do you think is the biggest bugbear or the biggest challenge that you have with dealing with your rent-to-rents? Because like you say, if they go swimmingly, then it's fine. You can earn, don't get me wrong, £1,000 a month, that property, you have 5 of them, that's £5,000 a month. That is like life-changing money for a lot of people.
Yeah.
But again, if you're paying bills and there's voids and you've got to, you know, cost of living, bills have shot up. If you had an empty property and you're liable for the bills, that shrinks your profit straight away. So, you know, there are watch outs, but it can be a lucrative strategy as well. And there's lots of people out there doing it and doing it extremely successfully. But what would you say, like, the biggest challenges or fucking pain points that you just can't stand with?
In the last year, I'll touch upon the ones that are the most common for everybody. But just a bit of a disclaimer as well. I'm still working 34 hours a week in a job. I'll go into another time why I'm still doing that, but 34 hours a week. Running my business actually doesn't take a lot of time. Doing it around a job is the pain in the arse.
Yeah.
So if I did this solely, there wouldn't be as big a bugbears as they are coming across. So for me, energy bills, fucking nightmare. Everybody's feeling it at the minute. Try managing HMOs when tenants don't turn the lights off.
Yeah.
Or
use
whatever.
emergency lighting. Use the lighting, automatic lighting that goes on and off.
It's worth covering this separately on how to minimise risk and money, and we'll go into this a little bit further.
Key safes and key codes. We have a new policy now that we when we take on HMOs, they either have to be key safes in the property for every room, or the locks are key coded. Twice on a Saturday evening, whilst I've just been out, just about to put my feet up and have a sip of a beer, I've got to call out. I've left my tenants left their key somewhere and they can't get in the room.
Yeah, I did 11 o'clock the other night. I was fuming.
Yeah, so key safes. I went into the property last week, drilled 4 key safes into the wall, inside in the area where the notice board and that is. Each one, I have the codes, none of the tenants do. So if they are locked out, I can sip my beer and not have to worry about
Yeah,
driving.
I do that. That's a really good thing. I tell you what, we'll touch upon this because there's some really, really savvy ways you can sort of have less hassle as well. And not everybody does this, and they'll go, oh God, you're good. And I'm like, oh, it's fucking, piece of piss. But anyway, so energy bills, nightmare. You can't stop tenants turning the lights off, on and off, and having raves. Very annoying. For me, the thing that annoys me the most is relentless repairs. There's always repairs. They never stop. And it doesn't matter if you've got a repair list and then you go down, the fucking cupboard door will fall off again, the bath's blocked. Why don't you unclog the hair yourself? The bulb's gone. Change the bulb
Buy a new
yourself.
bulb.
Yeah, and I was going to do a piss take post on this about baby mows and having baby HMOs for adults that are babies, because you've got to treat these people, and this is awful to say, like they've never done something before. Some of them are young, some of them have never got their own mortgage, they've never rented before, they don't know how to change a light bulb. Really obvious stuff that you learn to do yourself, they never do it.
Yeah.
Taking bins out. They're the biggest bugbears of fairly obvious things that you've got to sort of babysit adults to do, which is really
And you do come across it, don't you?
The amount of stuff. I could do a whole episode on shit I've had to do.
Yeah. Okay.
Just a whole
we ain't got that much time, I don't think.
Yeah, it's take a couple of months, that one. But the energy bills are the biggest one at the minute because they're frighteningly high, especially in HMOs. You can get things, obviously, to mitigate that. Like the Inspire thermostats are really good. I really recommend them, and you can do them from home as well.
Yeah, that's it. It's putting like innovative technology, like hive systems on heating, and the one you just said, like using them, controlling it from your from your house basically, or stuff. There's certain technology. If there's no one in the house, it switches off. All of these type of things. Lighting automatically goes off in the communal areas instead of it just being left on, because these things over time will take the piss and will take their toll on the energy bills.
I think if I owned these properties, I'd do completely different things, but doing it on a rent to rent, sometimes it's not your property and it's not worth the extra cost sometimes of certain things. But
on your profit shares, I guess the landlord would be in his best
I've got
interest
all them in the property,
for him to do it, because then he'll make more money.
Yeah, profit shares, you can definitely negotiate more stuff in them, but tenant behaviour as well. And again, I've specialised in ex-prisoners, prison leavers, those with learning disabilities for years and years now, and I'm really quite good at working with those individuals. But if you've never been a landlord before, I've got really young people trying to work with me at the minute. If you've never come across that before, and you've never come across shitty behaviour from people, or there was fag ash in one of our baths the other day. It's a non-smoking property. The amount of times you tell people stop smoking in the properties, and then they still do it, or just wash your pots up, stop pissing everybody else off. I found one really hard to have 100% occupancy because there's people in there, and annoyingly they pay the rent. They pay the rent, so I can't really get rid of them. Piss other people off in the leave. So they're my biggest bugbears, I think, on a rent to rent. Shitty human behaviour.
And that's something that's out of your control, isn't it? So don't manage people, animals, or kids in it. Or I think that was totally wrong, but
the sentiment's there.
Makes sense, exactly.
Sentiment's there.
So there's a bit of a deep dive into rent to rent and the truth of rent to rent. It's not always as glorified as it sounds. It can be extremely lucrative. I think it's important. Maybe if you are just starting out, speak to someone who has done it. Learn from other people's mistakes. Speak to Heidi. She's made fucking loads of mistakes.
I could have a book on them.
Rent to rent mistakes by Heidi.
I'll do it anonymously.
Yeah, do it anonymously.
So people don't go, what an idiot.
So it can be lucrative if you're looking at rent to rent. Do it. Just make sure that you just take into consideration a lot of the things that we've discussed, and you don't learn by not doing. So there might be something that you come across and you think, no, I ain't come across this before, but there's a lot of things that in the buy-to-lets and refurbs that I've done that I haven't come across before. But by doing things, you learn new things. So just go ahead, do it.
Unbelievable! Thank you for joining us this week. We hope we added value to your day. Stay tuned and see you next time for another unbelievable episode. See you next time.